My Mrs. Quilty box is here and I cannot wait to dig into it. Now, as a reminder, Mrs. Quilty do send me this box every month for free and they are sponsoring these videos. So thank you, Mrs. Quilty, and let's get her open. All right, so the box is so pretty this month. And if these are the colors included with the fab quarters, oh my goodness. So let's have a look. All right. Okay, so, oh, this is new. This is different. This is a quilt pattern for a Mrs. Quilty Small Hearts Throw. That's 58 by 78 inches. Interesting. Oh my goodness, look at this quilt. How cute is this? I might have to make this. So this is like a little bonus quilt pattern. How cool is that? Here is our magazine. So I'm going to be flipping through this and deciding what I'm going to make. This is a great magazine. It's got articles in here. It's got patterns. So you always have 4 patterns in every box that you can make. It describes the content of your box. So what's included, what gifts you are getting, and then all of the fabrics included in the box. And then you've got all of the projects. How cool is this? So you've got the monthly block. This is it right here. All the instructions. You've got a bunny crinkle toy. Not sure what that means, but okay. Cool. And then you've got all the templates you'll need. You've got a patchwork baby bib. Oh my goodness. Oh, if there's a baby coming in your life, how cool is that? And you've got the templates. Nice, and it comes in 3 sizes. So size 0 to 6 months, 6 to 12 months, and 12 to 14 months. So you can basically trace these and then cut them out of tissue paper or regular paper. Very cool. So you've got all the different pieces or templates. And then a baby blanket that's 48 by 48. So a nice, easy little quilt to make. So it's all half square triangles, it looks like. Look how sweet this is. Amazing. The instructions are really, really clear. That's one of my favorite things about Mrs. Quilty. Like step 1, step 2, like very clearly outlined. The cutting instructions are super clear. And then you've got at the very end a recipe every month. This is pancake cereal recipe. Cool. And I forgot to mention, but at the beginning of the magazine, there is a QR code that you can scan. So right here at the bottom of this page, you've got a QR code that you can scan to buy more of these fabrics. They also sell notions. So everything you need to make, if you want to, every single project in the magazine, you can get from Mrs. Quilty, which is really nice. Super cute magazine. Oh, I guess the gift this month is the quilt pattern? Wait a minute. Where are my gifts? They're supposed to be scissors. Oh, there they are. Oh, look at these. Can you see how cute these are? Little snips with the, I'm guessing this is faux leather shield. Oh my goodness, I love these. Very cool. All right, and then here are our fat quarters. So let me get this off of here. Look how pretty these are. So in the beautiful like aqua color, you've got leaves, you've got pink stars, pink flamingos. Oh my goodness, more stars. Watermelon, more flamingos still, and then some beautiful pink shapes and more flamingos. I love these. Very, very sweet fabrics. Love that. All right, so I'm going to pause the video for a minute, flip through the magazine again, decide what I'm gonna make this month, and I'll get back to you in a minute. All right, so I've decided I'm going to use the baby blanket pattern to make a small table topper. So I'm going to use basically the exact same instructions, but I'm going to make my squares smaller so that they fit on the fabric provided. Now there is a note in the magazine here that says that to complete the baby quilt, you'll need additional fabric beyond what's included in this month's box, because it uses 13-inch squares and you have fat quarters that are basically 18 by 21. You're not going to be able to fit 13-inch squares side by side on this size fabric, so you would need to purchase more. But by just making my squares smaller, I can make the exact same quilt, so it'll look exactly the same, but smaller. So what I'm going to do is, instead of cutting 13-inch squares, I'm going to cut 6-inch squares, and that guarantees that I'm going to be able to fit all of my squares onto a fat quarters. So the fabrics I chose, so for the middle piece, so this square here, I'm going to use these cute flamingos. I'm going to use these pink stars on the white background for the first ring around the flamingos. Then I'm going to use these leaves for the teal triangles in here. And then these pink wheels as the pink triangles on the outer ring. And then for the binding, I'm going to use this darker teal color or aqua color, which I think will be a very nice contrast when it's sewn next to the pink and the aqua leaves. So I think this will be nice. It'll frame my little quilt perfectly. And yeah, it's gonna turn this into a really cute little table topper, or even a wall hanging. This would be super nice. Like, I'm really liking these colors together. So I'm going to get cutting. So I'm going to follow exactly the instructions in the magazine, but instead of 13 inches, I'm going to cut my squares to 6 inches. But then I'm going to follow the exact same procedure or method for putting together all of my half square triangles and then sewing them all in rows and finish my little quilt. So I'm going to get cutting my fabric. I've pressed them all already, and I'll come back to you once I've cut everything. I'll show you how to put one set of half square triangles together, and then the rest will be exactly the same. This will be a little bit repetitive, but yeah, I'll come back once all my pieces are cut. All right, here are all of my fabrics. I haven't cut the fabric for the binding yet, because I'm obviously going to do the basting, quilting, and binding later on and not in this video. So I've only cut the fabrics I'm going to need to make the quilt top. So the next step in the instructions say to, on the back side of fabrics A and C, So fabrics A and C are the teal leaves, so these, and C is my middle square. So these two fabrics, so I'm going to set these aside for now. So on the back of these squares, I'm going to draw a diagonal line from corner to corner so that we can then put them face, like right sides together on another square to form our... So I'm going to take a pen and mark. Now I'm using a real pen. You might want to put, like, use a water erasable or air erasable or even a friction pen to mark yours if you are doing this. And again, I mean, I'm going to show you this using the Mrs. Quilty box, but anytime you want to do something like this, you can go through your own fabric stash, and there are a multitude of different quilt patterns or blocks or that you can make using half square triangles. All right, so I'm going to continue marking all of my squares. So again, I'm marking on the back, corner to corner, like this, and I'm going to do this for all my squares. By the way, I know a lot of you, so a lot of my viewers are garment makers and don't really come to my channel for the quilting content, but having these skills, being able to make a little quilted item, whether that be a placemat, a mug rug, a little wall hanging, or even just to make quilted fabric so that you can turn it into a bag or a jacket. I mean, these skills that I'm showing you now, you can apply to so many other things if you really are not into making like large quilts. All right, almost done here. And the Mrs. Quilty boxes, I mean, the fat quarters, like you saw, they all coordinate together. So you don't even have to make any decisions as far as what fabrics to buy and what's going to go well with what. Everything's included in your box. And like I said, although I love the projects in the magazine, you don't have to do any of them if you don't want to. And you can take your 12 fat quarters and do something completely different. And who doesn't love to have a stash of fat quarters? I mean, you can turn these into so many different things. All right, so I've marked my 6 squares. Next up is using one fabric A, which again is my teal leaves. So using one of these and one fabric B square. My fabric B is my pink fabric. All right. I'm going to sew 1/4 inch on each side of the drawn line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my square here. I'm going to put my teal leaves on top. So right sides together. I'm going to try to align them almost exactly. Like, I'm not going to stress out over it because I'm going to be able to trim these after I sew them. But I'm going to put them right sides together. Now I'm going to go to my machine and stitch 1/4 inch on the left of my marked line, and then 1/4 inch on the right of my marked line. I'm not stitching on the marked line. I'm stitching 2 lines 1/4 inch away from my marked line on both sides, so that when those 2 lines are stitched, I'm going to come back here and cut them apart on my red line, and then I'll have 2 half square triangles. So that's basically how you sew a half square triangle. All right, so I'm going to stitch and cut and press all of my half square triangles following the instructions in the booklet, and then I'll come back when it's time to arrange them all and then sew them all into rows. All right, so I've got my square or my half square triangles all sewn and pressed. The instructions say to press towards the light fabric, so that's what I did. Typically though, they have you press to the wrong side, but whatever. The next thing is I need to trim these because they are not perfectly square. You have these little dog ears here that you absolutely need to get rid of because these will add bulk into your seams and you don't want that. It's incredibly difficult to get half square triangles pieced this way that are perfectly square and that measure exactly what you want them to measure. It is incredibly difficult. So I much prefer piecing them with larger squares to begin with and then trimming them down, and that's what I'm going to do here. So most of mine measure somewhere between 5.5 and 5 3/4 inches. So I'm going to trim them all to 5.5 inch square. And to do that, where's my little ruler? Hold on. All right, to do that, I'm going to use this little 5.5 inch square ruler, which is, you know, the perfect size. So I'm just going to show you on one, and then, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. I have a 45-degree line here. So I'm going to place that 45-degree line right on my seam. And then I'm going to make sure that my ruler covers, or that my ruler is on top of the fabric on all 4 sides. So this is really good. And then I'm just going to trim on 2 sides first and then flip it. Now I've got my cut edges on this side. So I'm going to place my ruler exactly on those cut edges and trim the other 2 sides like that. And now I've got a perfect square that's 5.5 inches. So I'm going to do that with all of my squares. And then once I'm done, I'm going to come back and we are going to place our half square triangles on the table and then piece them into rows. All right, so now we are ready to put our little quilt top together. So I'm going to follow the diagram in the magazine. So this right here. So basically, I'm going to take my half square triangles and just put them in place like the diagram says. Like this. You might not be able to see everything, but you'll get the idea. So, like this, and then this. All right, we are almost done placing these. Just double check everything because I'm telling you it's sometimes hard to... There we go. So I guess as long as you have your diamond in the middle and then all your rings around and everything looks like the design. The other thing too is you could go completely random and just mix them all up. And I've done an entire quilt like that before and it was so, so cute. So just for fun, I'm going to measure. I mean, this is not going to be accurate because we haven't sewn anything together yet, but right now it's at about 22 inches square. So that's probably going to finish under 20. Or maybe just a little over 20, which will be a nice size for a table topper or a little wall hanging. So the next step is to basically just sew your rows together. So this square to this one, to this one, to this one. Have a row, press your seams, and then sew the next row, next, and next. And once you've got your 4 rows, just sew them together, pressing your seams as you go. And then you'll have a super cute finished quilt top. And here we go. Cute little top, all made with half square triangles. So I decided to size down and cut my squares at 6 inches, and then trim all of my half square triangles to 5.5 inches, which basically is giving me a 20-inch square. Now, with 20 inches, there are a lot of things I could do with this. I could turn this into a table topper. I could turn this into a wall hanging. I could make a bunch more of these blocks and turn it into a quilt, but I could turn this into a 20-inch pillow, which is really nice on a sofa or on a bed. So yeah, lots of possibilities as well. If you have your own stash of fabric and you have cuts that are larger than fat quarters, you can definitely cut your squares larger and therefore make your half square triangles bigger and just get a bigger project altogether. So the half square triangle is probably my favorite quilt block. It is so versatile, super easy and quick to put together, and then you can switch it around, place them in different configurations, and really get a very different looking block each time you do that. So yeah, hope this was helpful. Once again, I'm gonna have a link to the Mrs. Quilty subscription box below. I don't get a commission out of this, but like I said, this is a sponsored video. I do stand behind the boxes though. I absolutely have been loving getting mine. I love the prints of the fabric. I love the little gifts we get. I love the magazine. And I've said this in a number of my Mrs. Quilty videos now. You get, when you start your subscription, the first few boxes you get are easy. So all the projects included in the magazine are easy ones to put together. If you are just dipping your toe into quilting, you can make those projects. And then as your subscription progresses, the projects get a little bit more difficult and you get to learn new skills as you go. Absolutely love the model. Also, there's a QR code in your magazine where you can go have a look at the entire Mrs. Quilty website, buy more of the fabrics that's in the box if you want to do something bigger, or get any notions that they carry. Like I said, there will be a link below, but I would love to know what you think of my little quilt top. And if you subscribe to the channel, I will finish this and at some point share the finished item during one of my Friday Sews videos. So yeah, you will get to see the finished item. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please give the video a like on your way out if you liked it, and I will see you soon.